In the motorcycle world, particularly touring, aftermarket seats are a constant topic of discussion. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about this Corbin touring seat for the K1600. We'll talk about how to install it and some of the differences from the stock seat. So stick around and we'll walk you through the whole thing right here on Touring America.
Hey, we're Wires from Greensboro and North Carolina.
So today we're talking about seats, and particularly aftermarket seats, and more particular than that, Corbin seats, and the Corbin touring seat on this K1600. The stock seat that I've got is actually pretty decent. It's probably the best stock seat I've gotten on any of the motorcycles that I've owned. And this is the standard height seat on the K1600 GTL. As we talked about in some of my previous videos, this seat actually has 4 heights: a low, a standard, a high, and an extra high. And as we also said, I've got about a 29 to 30 inch inseam. And with the tape here, and it's on the side stand, so this isn't completely accurate, but we're just going to use this as a comparison. I am sitting at the kind of the peak of the seat height, right about 29 inches, maybe a tad more than that, to the kind of the highest arc in the middle of the seat. So we're going to use that as a comparison. When I put the other seat on, we'll take another measurement and we'll look at that. The other thing that I wanted to point out here is my seating position. And I don't have my typical riding boots on, but as long as I keep the same shoes on, it should be pretty consistent. So when I tip the bike up and I'm sitting flat with my shins pressed up against the back of the foot pegs, right, I can just barely touch my heels, right, on this bike. So we'll use that again as another point of comparison for the seat height. So with all of our measurements established, let's get back to looking exactly at what is involved in this seat, what the differences are between this seat and the seat that we're going to put on, and kind of use a little bit of terminology. When I think about seats, I kind of think about 2 different words. There's a seat and there's a saddle. A seat is something that's very cushiony. You'll hear sometimes people talk about, oh, it's like sitting in an easy chair, sitting in a sofa. Those are seats. Some of the aftermarket seats are wider than the stock ones. They have more cushion, a different mixture of different types of foams to create that cushion that lets you ride all day and keeps your tailbone up off the hard portion of the seat pan to give you comfort for a very long ride, right? We're talking about 10, 12-hour days in the saddle, so comfort is what we're talking about. The other type of seat is a saddle, and really that's what I prefer. A saddle, if you think of a horse saddle, is really kind of the model there. Not a lot of padding. You're relying on the shape to distribute the weight of your body equally over the inside of your thighs and up into your butt area to give you some distributed weight. The advantages of a saddle, in my opinion, over a seat is a seat you sink in and you don't get to move around a lot. There's really only one good riding position on a seat. With a saddle, I can slide around, move my butt around, slide forward, slide back. If I need to, want to lean back a little bit more. It seems to be just a lot more versatile in the terms of what riding positions it will support, at least for me in my riding style and my body type. The BMW seat, the stock one, at least in this standard configuration, I think kind of is right on the border between the two. There's enough padding here where I can sink my finger in, probably an inch and a half or so. Right, so there is some padding there, but it's not so soft that I kind of get that plush, sink in, Barca Lounger type feeling. But what I found is, based on the last BMW K1600 I had, that I really prefer a firmer style seat. So we're going to take the seat that I was able to salvage off my last bike and put it back on the Exclusive, getting ready for that trip that I've got coming up in a couple weeks. So I'm going to walk you now step by step through what that's going to be like. Step 1 is going to be to remove the existing seat. That's very straightforward. I'm going to take my key and just give it a turn and pop the seat off. And once the seat comes off, I'm going to disconnect the heated seat wiring so that we can transfer that over to the new Corbin. So once the seat is off and we've got the cabling disconnected, it's important that you leave the long pigtail cable attached to the bike. That is what we're going to plug into the back of the new Corbin seat to make sure that we get our heated seat action going over there. So for now I'm going to lay it off to the side. The next thing you need to get is your T20 Torx bit, and we need to remove this stock mounting bracket for the BMW seat. The Corbin one uses a different type of a mounting bracket. So it's just 3 screws. We'll pull that out with the old T20. And that will set us up for the new bracket. And that's that. I've actually got 2 different brackets for the Corbin, and they are similar but slightly different in shape. One's more T-shaped, the other one's more of a triangle. But they have the exact same screw pattern, and the post latch is in the same position on both of them. I purchased this from a gentleman, and he thought he had lost the base plate at one time, so he bought another one from Corbin, and when I got it, I got both of those. So I'm just going to put the lighter one in, the one with a little bit less metal on it, and we're going to mount that right back up to the stock bolt location. And to do that, I'm just going to put those stock screws right back in. The kit does come with another set of bolts, but they are Allen head bolts, and I would much rather keep everything with the same set of Torx drivers so that if I need to change something or fix something while I'm on the road, I only have one set of tools that I need to have with me, right? Simpler is better. We will tighten all those up. And that new mount is in place and ready to receive the Corbin seat. And now that the new bracket's in place, I have gone ahead and plugged the wiring harness in so that we got heat to the new Corbin seat. And we'll make sure that that's tucked underneath and not pinched on any of the radio items underneath there. And it will sit in the same front mounts as the stock seat. And we just need to wiggle it around to get that rear lined up, and that's it. And it's in the new mount. So it's pretty straightforward. Let's back this camera angle out just a little bit, and we can get a better look on what that looks like. So this is what we've got. A couple of the things to notice right away is that this is a leather seat and not a vinyl seat. I like the leather better. I do take care of it with the Montana Pitch Blend products that I talked about in a previous video dealing with the Vance and jackets. So if you want to see how I take care of all my leather products, you can go back and look at that video. It's got some nice seaming in it, holds up really well. Got a little custom Corbin motorcycle wheel logo with wings in the back. One of the things that is not as nice on this seat is the passenger area. My wife does not like to ride on this seat. When we go together, I put the stock seat back on. This is a smaller pillion seat. The padding is not as good, and I don't have that small rise in the front to keep that passenger in place. It also doesn't quite come as close to the rear backrest as the stock seat does. So for one up riding, I really like it. For two up, it's not our first choice. Some of the other things that are different about the Corbin, number one is you can put in a driver's backrest. We've got this flap here in the back that if you flip it down and fold the leather over to the side, there's a post hole in there. And what you can do is Corbin sells a variety of different backrests, and you can put that on and slide a seat in. This is something that I put in just as a lumbar support, and it's adjusted right for my height. And in just a second, I will show you how I built that as well. But with these two things, right, with the backrest and the firmer seat, and you'll notice when I push down, I only have maybe a ½ inch of deflection. This is a much firmer seat than the stock one. I find that it's much more comfortable for me to ride long distances. The heated seat portion is just as good as the stock. All right, warms up really nice. I said, plus I've got the backrest and some lumbar support. The other thing that's different about this seat over the stock seat is I do have to carry now another key. My stock BMW key doesn't fit, nor can this seat be rekeyed. So you do get another key that you need to put on your ring, and it will go in and turn, right, and then it will pop that seat off just like the stock one does. But you do need to carry another key, which is kind of a drag, but I think it's a minor inconvenience. So that's installing the Corbin seat. A little bit of why I like it due to the firmness. Now let's take a look at kind of the modifications that I've done on this backrest, just to give you an idea. So in terms of the backrest, as I said, Corbin does make quite a few different styles of backrest. This is called the large oval. It's got a hole in it. They also make a small oval. They make one that's solid that doesn't have a hole in it. I can't remember what all the names of all of them are. But I ended up getting these ovals because it seemed to be what everybody was getting when I used to be riding cruisers, and I ended up liking it, so I kept it around. But what it does not come with is this lumbar support. This is actually how the seat, or how the backrest looks when it comes new, right? You've got a nice thick pad that you can lean up against, the shaft, and on the back there's a plastic cover piece. You can replace that. I do have a chrome one that I use on my cruiser, but this black just looks better, I think, on this bike. And it's got two screws that hold that plastic cover on, and that's what covers up all the seams and the staples of where the cover goes onto the backrest itself that you can take off. The lumbar pad that I use is actually from a what do they call it? Rider's Friend, right? One of the big cylindrical tour packs for cruisers. And I use this on my cruiser, and when I came over to the K1600, I brought it with me. And essentially what I do to make it work is this. I take the cover off of the back of the backrest, and that exposes the two screw holes. I then take a couple pieces of 3/4 inch webbing and attach snaps to them. And I just got a snap kit from Amazon, right? And I put a snap on the end of each one, and I push them through the hole, and I screw them in place at the right length. And you're going to have to play with this a little bit to find the right length for you if this is something that you want to do. And then I loop the ends back under. This gives me another tie down location. If I need to tie something onto the seat, it gives me another place where I can hook a bungee cord or a cargo net or something like that. So it actually gives me a couple different functions. So I get that adjusted, and I can put that down into the mounting location. And then on the lumbar support, I can just simply snap it in place. If I decide I'm on the road and I don't want to use it, I can simply unsnap it, throw these loops through the back, right? And they will stay, and I don't need to use it. But because of my short leg length, right, this really helps me get some nice back support on longer rides. And like I said, real easy, just snap them right in there. The lumbar support is not leather. The backrest and the seat are, so I just used Armor All to keep that nice as well. So let's go back and take a look at some of those measurements for seat height and seat position, and we'll compare it to the original. So here we are, coming back to measure the seat height as a comparison between the stock seat and the Corbin. And where the stock seat was just a little over 29, this one is about 30.5. So it's about 1.5 inches higher, right? So that's an interesting data point. So if you're running a high seat, this is going to be about the same as a high seat from BMW. It is taller than both the low and the standard seats. So to get an idea what that looks like from a foot perspective, make sure I got that in the shot, and I think we do. We'll come in here and we'll sit on this. All right. And you'll notice again, with my feet right up against the back of the foot pegs, I cannot get my heels down. It is a taller seat. So if you're a short person, keep that in mind. It might not be the seat for you. If you're tall, you might like this. This might add an inch or two, depending on which seat you already have from BMW. But when I sit on it, I don't feel myself sink in at all. All right? I'm going to kind of show you a couple of my riding positions next that I really like. So I've got the bike up on the center stand now, and you'll see that my regular riding position, right, is going to be sitting up, right, using the regular stock footrests, and I get this lumbar support right in the small of my back, right above my belt, right, which is perfect for me. But also notice that the top of the backrest I'm not in contact with, right? There is a gap there. I'm not leaning back against it all the time, right? But that lumbar support is in position. In the cold weather, when I've got some more clothes on, I even get better contact, right? So the other thing I do is I kick out my footrests, right? Which I showed you how to install in a previous video as well. And what that lets me do is when I push back against those now, I get a nice tight fit back against this backrest, right? And it lets me really stretch out in a cruising position, right? I have nice straight legs, right? Gives me a lot of room. You know, if your knees get cramped up from being long, it really lets me kind of lock those knees out, right, and get some good stretch in those legs. The other thing it lets me do is kick my heels up on top and extend my legs fully if I need to. And notice when I do this now, I do have full contact with this seat rest. I find it to be a very, very comfortable position, and I may just have one hand on the handlebars kicking back, you know, if I'm at interstate or on a long stretch of state highway that's relatively straight. And I'll do this just for a break, to get a little bit of time without my knees kind of tucked up under me. I guess that's still the cruiser guy in me coming through and wanting to be able to stretch my legs every once in a while, right? The other thing I can do is I can really slide down because of the lack of padding and not having that one sweet spot with a lot of foam. I can actually slide my butt forward, right? And I actually am leaned way back now. So I have multiple seating positions, right, where I can take both pressure points off my bottom as well as move my legs around to find those comfort spots, all the while still reaching the handlebars. If you have a set of pullbacks on your handlebars, this is going to probably be even nicer for you. But gives you a lot of different riding options and seating position options depending on what you're trying to do. So this is kind of one of the things that, or one of the reasons that I like the Corbin in terms of the flexibility it gives me in the number of seating positions. So the last thing I want to talk about before we cut out today is the cost. These Corbin seats aren't cheap. This particular touring seat, if you buy it new, is about $600, depending on exactly what options you get and where you buy it from. There's not a whole lot of variance in price from dealer to dealer. I tend to order my stuff directly from Corbin. That way they have a record of it when I call for support and service, which luckily I haven't had to do on this seat yet, but I have had to on a couple of my other seats. They also let you try the seat, send it back to them, and have them make adjustments to the seat if you need to. If you live close to them and they are out in California, Northern California, you can actually do a ride-in, and they will send somebody out to the lot with you or pull you inside and do a custom fit while you're sitting there. So if you're in California and you're even thinking about a Corbin seat, it's probably worth driving in there and at least taking a look. All that being said, is it worth it? Well, I'm telling you, I have bought 4 different Corbin seats for my different bikes in the last 15 years or so, and every one of them I've liked. There are some people say, oh, it worked good for this bike, not so great for that bike, whatever. And I will say that it's made the least amount of difference on the K1600 compared to my other bikes, my VTX and my Shadows. For my Shadow, I actually had 2 different Corbin seats for it. I had what they call a gunfighter, which is a single driver only seat, and I had a touring seat for that as well for a pillion rider. But it's made the least amount of difference. But I also have only ever bought one of these seats new, and that was the Dual Tour seat for my Honda VTX. All of the other ones, if you watch around on eBay, right, you can usually find a seat that somebody's bought, doesn't work for them for whatever reason, and that happens a lot with the Corbins, right? If you don't think you want a firm seat, that saddle style, this is not the seat for you, and people will buy them because they are very highly reviewed in some circles and find it's just not for them. They're looking for more of that sofa feel. You can find them for a couple $100 less on eBay or on some of the dedicated forums where people are switching around seats all the time. So at $400 or so, I think this is a real bargain. I believe I only paid $350 for this seat, and that included a backrest, which is another $125, $150 if you buy it separate. I didn't need the backrest because I already had ones for my other bikes, but right? It was a really good value. So I was getting about $700 to $800 worth of seat for about $350. It was over 50% off. So shop it around. And that goes for any kind of seat, right? Odds are you're going to be able to find one that somebody bought, didn't like it, and they're trying to get rid of cheap. So kind of that's my advice to you with seats, particularly on the K1600. With that being said, make sure that you subscribe up here if you like what you see. We have been just doing gangbusters lately. We're up close to 150 subscribers. Our goal was 100 by the end of the month with still a week left. So let's set that new goal for 200. Let's try to get to 200 subscribers here by the end of the month, in the last week. See if it's possible. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'm going to give you a link to this seat, brand new on Corbin, in that area below as well. So until next time, make sure that you are safe and stick around. More videos to come. This is Touring America. Have a great ride.
Down the street.